Turn off video for the phantom, or is it?
Nice. So yeah, I'd love to kind of chat you through, I suppose, a few questions, which will take about 45 minutes or so. And then I guess if there's any other points, I know I was having a chat with Jean-Marc earlier in the week, and he said he was trying to get a call together with lots of key kind of stakeholders around this kind of metaverse conversation, of which I'd had some interesting thoughts as well. So we could potentially have a bit more of a chat about that as well. Is there anything else that you wanted to cover off?
I mean, we have a million things, but I mean, maybe not this call. Looks like Gustavo will be here for Evgenia's thing on Thursday, and then he'll be here on Friday, I guess. So if you wanted to come by,
Who's
or
Gustavus?
Gustavo, TDF Gustavo. Maybe you don't know him. He's really cool. He's in the ecosystem, Web3, collaboration, consciousness, all of the good things.
Mm-hmm.
He's
Nice. Okay.
an amazing, wonderful character.
Nice. Sounds good. Yeah, thank you for the invitation, by the way. Sorry, I haven't got back to you on Thursday. I'm just trying to see. I've already had some meetings in, so just trying to see if I can kind of move some bits around. So I'll keep you
All
posted.
good. I just pinged you. So yeah, I don't have I mean, I have a million things we could talk about, but nothing concrete.
Okay, cool.
About them.
Well, if we jump into this then, I guess I started to talk to you about this a little bit before, that I'm just speaking to a number of different experts or kind of specialists within the field around the intersection of emerging technology, spirituality, and regeneration. I guess for me, it's kind of with the work that I've been doing is recognizing that there is this kind of shift that is emerging that moves us from the kind of ego into this more eco-centric and like interconnected worldview. And actually, when we think about a lot of the stuff that I've been reading at the moment, talks about this kind of paradigm shift in, multiple different lenses, depending on, who you're talking to. If it's like the great turnover from a biological standpoint, or,
I think great turning, not great turnover, right?
yeah, the great turning. Yeah. And then you've got like the yeah, and so there's lots of, I think, different terminologies of the way people are seeing this, but I think overall it's a recognition of like where technology is really going to kind of shift what our human experience is, and in tandem with spirituality and consciousness becoming something that more people are considering, and the need to kind of solve this climate crisis and recognizing that sustainability just isn't going to get us there, and it's a much larger shift. It's like, what does that actually start to look like? So that's the intention. The idea is just to pull together kind of the key insights and recognizing what is the kind of role that business can play within that. So I thought, given the kind of experience that you have and also being very connected with the ecosystem, that you'd be able to share some interesting insights. There's kind of three core sections. The first one's just a bit about kind of establishing or allowing you to talk about your work, even though I know a lot of it already, but in your own words. Then talking about kind of the shift that we're observing, and then what this actually means. Cool. So how would you describe the work that you are currently doing, and why did you feel called to it?
So I do what I think needs to be done and nobody else seems to be doing. I mean, I guess I started my journey with looking at money after the 2008 crash. I was like, oh, wait, there's money. What is it? Where did it come from? And I was really excited for a while about the whole ecosystem of people looking at alternatives to money and new proposals and all of this. But after a while, I realized we've been talking about it for 100 years, and it's so intertwined with the nation state and with all of our systems that it doesn't feel like it's something that is shiftable in a in a bigger scale within our lifetime. Which of course doesn't mean we shouldn't work on it, but it just kind of felt there were much smarter people than me who spent their lifetimes on it and didn't really move it forward. Moved forward a lot intellectually, but didn't move it forward much practically. So that looked frustrating. And then through the village space, I got to regeneration, and then I guess everything that I do revolves around collaboration, building stuff, doing stuff together, building teams. I spent a bunch of years in the future of work, teal, reinventing organizations bubble. We were all really excited when reinventing organizations came. That was actually kind of my first organizing, trying to get people to collaborate. We did this teal for startups group. We had like 150, 180 people participating in 4, 5, 6 work streams, all remotely, and then it all kind of collapsed in and on itself. And nothing came out in terms of we're going to do a white paper or this and that, but amazing relationships formed. 2 or 3 people that met through it wrote a book. I think they've written 2 books now. And recently, actually, one of the projects that I mentioned to you that I got now was a person that I met 10 years ago through this. They just remembered me. Oh, it just means Victor. And then they had a project in this space and connected with me. So it was a really cool experiment in the end and very valuable. And it made me really aware of how building connections is important and enriching. Right. So I always like connecting people, throwing parties and this and that, but that just kind of really drew me in and maybe whet my appetite for how, yeah, build creating connections to build what I came up with. The vision for the gathering is building regenerative ecosystems of collaboration. And that will connect to our next chapter. But for me, what I mean by that is, well, regenerative means all of the consciousness stuff. And it's interesting that you said spirituality and regeneration separately, because actually for me, regeneration has that spiritual component in it. But bringing that whole idea space, by ecosystem, I'm really interested in thinking about it. I guess people talk about business ecosystems and stuff like this, but in the legacy mode, it's really looked at through the lens of financial exchange and commerce. Maybe you have some shared standards, or if you're lucky, but they've mostly died off, professional associations, right? 200 years ago, 100, 200, 300 years ago, you had deeply meaningful professional associations, guilds, right? Which were this was your friend group. This is the people that came to your wedding, to your funeral, that you got through work with. These were your friends, right? But we've lost those. So that's kind of what I mean by ecosystem. I really see much more than just we trade with each other, but we support each other. We share best practices. We learn together. We develop the space together. And then collaboration, because for me, getting, the tire hits the road when we're actually making stuff happen. And for me, actually, like for profit, not for profit, for community, for global, I mean, we're doing stuff together and making things in the world, right?
And I guess, how do you see the kind of difference of the approach that you're taking to then what is currently happening in the system, or how it's been done before?
So I think, as I said, I think the over the last 100 years, our world is moved to be much more transactional and money based versus relational and community based, right? And I think we've hit the limit to that. Uh, And we need to bring back more richer relationships, communities, families. Also, what I really see, and again, when you look at things relationally, then things like a company or whatever, it's just a tool to facilitate the relationships that we have, right? It's not the other way around where the company is what creates the relationship. So what I believe, what I'm starting to work towards is enable the emergence of many and richer forms of collaboration, right? So for example, I see, and that's why I started the gathering, is I see a massive need for mutual support. And it's true everywhere in the world. But in this build a new world, regenerative, ecosystem, when we know we're all part of the same movement, the fact that people are going around feeling unsupported, that they don't have somebody to call on, that to me is ridiculous. It's a total, and for all of the complaints we might have that the legacy system doesn't work, money is broken, or whatever, that one is entirely on us, because that people don't have somebody to reach out to and have a 10-minute call that doesn't require money. All of the communication technologies are free now. That's just a coordination failure on part of us as a movement.
So going more deeply then into gathering of tribes, so what has been the intention and what do you hope to achieve with it?
The gathering, we
Mhm.
rebranded, and the intention was to build this regenerative ecosystem of collaboration, which means build more relationships. First, so people know that there's other people around, whether geographically or in an idea space, that are doing similar things and believe in what they believe in, right? That's the first step of, we don't want people to feel alone. There's still so many people who are, I see this idea as I see the brighter future, but I feel alone in this, right? Ridiculous. We have the internet. There's millions of us in the world. Nobody should feel alone. Second step, having people that you can learn with, share ideas, so everybody is not trying to figure out things by themselves, and having people that you feel supported with.
So
And
with
and
oh,
then continuing with that, so yeah, maybe I spent 2 or 3 minutes, because there's like many different layers to the gathering. uh, Sometimes I've just said it so many times, I guess I've gotten bored of explaining, or just gotten forget which things are not obvious. So I see the gathering as, there's many amazing, beautiful, transformational festivals for individuals.
mhm.
So there is, you connect with spirituality, with your body, you can become transformed, but I want the dream for the gathering is, it's a transformational festival event for organizations, tribes. That's why I was with tribes, because an organization could be a community, it could be DAO. It doesn't need to have a legal form of any particular kind, right? I believe if there is a name and something and people feel it's part of their identity, they associate with it, then it exists, right? Uh, and we need this sense of belonging. So creating an event which encourages people to create these containers of belonging is, that's why it was the gathering of tribes. I think this is really important. Uh, we yearn to belong, and I see my image of tribe, or these organizations, is something that's big enough that it's bigger than you, that you feel it will continue, whether you're there or not, and yet is small enough that you can see the value of your contribution, right? Of course, we all belong to humanity, to your country, to Europe, to whatever, your football club, all of which will continue and are much bigger than you. But it's very hard to feel your sense of contribution to those massive scale or a big corporation. And I think we need this sense of being part of something that's bigger than us, and we feel our contribution.
Nice.
So creating those units of belonging, the building the ecosystem interconnection, and also a degree of what we are talking about before with your idea of the playground of creating a rich medium where collaborations, shared projects, businesses, communities, ideas can emerge much more easily.
Yeah. So if we kind of think about that at its richest or most expansive and it's kind of happening and people are collaborating, etc., like what do you think the behavioral shift is needed then in order for us to see that happen?
So I think this bigger awareness of being part of the ecosystem, uh, and this means and creating habits and rituals and ways of building organizations and working which make it so that you naturally connect with the ecosystem, right? That it's not an additional work stream and a bunch of tasks that you have to do. It's just there. My One of my biggest inspirations and inquiries now is the forest.
Mhm.
The forest creates rain, it creates weather. Amazon affects weather patterns on a global scale. But are the ants thinking about it? Is the tree thinking about it? There's no central coordinating tree telling everybody what to do. Everybody just gets on with living their lives, but it's interconnected. So how can we work that way? And I really see, and the reason that now is different, and I think it's possible, the the possibility for us to share what we're doing with the world is there through social media, through all of these, right? You just need to get in the habit of recording things. Are you going to share this video or am I going to share it?
You can share if you like.
Sure. So getting into the habit of recording things, publishing them, just doing things openly. If we're in a change maker space, everybody just publish their financial models and your operational models and all of this so other people can copy it, right? Uh, Go public by default. Of course, some things need to be private because of individual privacy and so on and so forth, but in general, default to public, default to sharing, default to finding ways to do things in partnership. And that's where this technology and consciousness, okay, we're more open, we more want to collaborate more widely, but we need a technology to really support coming together into flexibly and rapidly to co-create projects, track the value contribution, track the value flow out of that. The current model, companies are amazing, but it's a system that was perfected 150 years ago or something. The basic limited liability and corporate structure hasn't changed in probably 150, if not 200 years, right? So it was definitely state of the art. If you look at the history of evolution, you know that the first corporations required an act of parliament. East India Company is very interesting. Like the parliament had to go and pass a law for a company to exist, right? That was the level of how new it was, right? Now you go and you can create a company, but we need something that's 1,000 times faster, 1,000th time the cost again.
And so obviously you've got a kind of background in tech as well. Like what do you think the role for kind of the Web3 values and also I guess like AI, blockchain, etc. How do you think they will help support this?
So uh, once they get out of their worshiping the golden bull uh, downward spiral, uh, I mean, I don't mean to insult you, but you know this story, Moses, tablets, he came down, you know that, right? It's exactly the same thing, right? And that was what, 3,000, 3,500 years ago? I don't remember what the timeline is, 5,000, right? And still 5,000 years later, here we are, still repeating the same old story. Uh, so what we need is really lightweight ways to create collaborations which also track value, right? Which track value with the ability uh, to reward people for their contribution. Reward doesn't just mean financial. In actual fact, reputational is super important too, right? So let's look at this example of this conversation here. I'm somehow contributing to your white paper and to your work. Maybe you'll put my name on it, maybe something, and then it's lost in the thing, right? This should go somewhere on my reputation blockchain record, right? Victor contributed to this, right? And I mean, I give this as an example because I love having these kinds of conversations. I love doing this, but then I could be spending half of my week having these kinds of conversations with different people. And then how do people know that I am contributing to the ecosystem? But then if I had this listing, oh wow, Victor was part contributed here, advisor there, and all of this, they're like, okay, this is an interesting person. Maybe I'll hire them for something. So tracking this contribution, because this is it's a micro project, it's a collaboration. I'm contributing, probably dozens, if not tens of people are contributing as well. How can we recognize everybody's contribution and value? And then when you have financial projects also, I mean, it's like every single day. It's funny, since we talked, pretty much every day I'm like, oh my God, I need a playground. Oh my God, I need a playground. Oh my God, I need a playground. Because people are like, oh, I have this idea and this. And it's like, how do I find a team? How do I get started? But I need money. I need to pay people and all of this, right? Because there isn't this light way of, well, let's just do a feasibility study, each of us throw in some time, and then, but it's tracked, right? It's not volunteer and it's not for free.
Definitely. So thinking then more broadly about like the way things are running at the moment, like what do you think are the key aspects that we need to be challenging within the system?
So I don't believe we should challenge. I think we should just get on with getting our shit done. I mean, I think fight, challenge, and all of this. We know the problems, and what I really love is this, and I think it's becoming my guiding star when talking with people. The Daniel Schmachtenberger quote: "The answer to all of the problems is all of the solutions." Right. So this is a message I'm really trying to put out strongly out there, is that people don't feel that they have to, this is what they need to work on. Find something that's your passion. I don't know, like there's a local links or something that's in trouble and your passion is to save the local links. Great. Garbage beach cleanup, great. Global redesigning the financial system, great. Like if you're passionate about it, then work on it. In terms of our ecosystem building people, the way I see it is we need to start working and thinking and emerging this meta narrative. So I've been thinking a lot about it, and I recorded a little thing. So for me, what I mean by meta narrative is the sum total of these conversations that we're having. And it's nobody can define what the meta narrative is, but we shape it by who do we invite to the conversation and what questions do we engage with. It's not like it's just free for random. I don't mean the random connection that ChatGPT makes of all of human knowledge it managed to crawl, but the sum total of the conversations that we need to include. So yeah, I think we need to everything that results in more interconnection between projects, between people, right? If you look at computing systems, information processing systems, whether biological or computer, what's really important is not just the strength and the intelligence of individual nodes, but how interconnected they are. And to me, this regenerative ecosystem is still not interconnected enough. People don't know well enough what other people are doing. They are not collaborating by default. They are not building public by default. We need new structures of mutual support, not just for people, but also for projects, right? So I'm playing with this idea. I believe every project should be part of a family.
Yeah, we
So
spoke a little bit.
more interconnection, and I believe that the easy, because doing projects together and all of this requires a lot of trust and so forth, and I appreciate that that's difficult for people. I think the easy low hanging fruit is everybody talk to as many people as you can and publish those conversations. It's a little bit of a hassle, but it costs almost nothing, right? And if everybody in this space did one interview a week with another interesting person and all of this, suddenly we would have this mass of flow of this idea space.
So I know you and I have spoken about this a little bit, and you touched on it earlier in terms of the way in which businesses are incorporated and the kind of structures that we currently have haven't evolved in 150 years. What do you think are the kind of core problems, I guess, that you see with that? Like, what is it that's prohibiting us to then approach this more interconnected view that we're talking about?
I mean, it's tools and consciousness, right? So for me, the dynamic creative value contribution, so building out rituals and expectations around it. And that's
Mm.
actually Gustavo is working. He's part of a team that's got an app, one app for that, for dynamic sweat equity or however you want to call it. I mean, we need a playground.
Luckily, some of us have had some ideas on it. Okay. So within the conversations that you are having, of which we've established there are many, what would you say are the biggest shifts that you're observing at the moment?
I think there is a definitely a growing appreciation from the grassroots that we need to create projects which are financeable. Uh, I mean, I don't know whether it's my bubble or whether it's a shift, but this understanding that we need the philosophy, mindset, consciousness, and technologies both.
Hmm.
Uh, and then, yeah, I mean, so last year I had 300 or more conversations with amazing different change makers. And I had a conversation with one amazing woman. And she was in the UK, British, like full white head of hair, proper elder energy. And she's been at this for 40 years or more, right? Sensei, as you say in Japanese. And she said, it's never felt like this before. It just feels like it's bubbling, like the amount of energy, it's more than ever and different. So it really feels like the potential is there. I think we also, there was at some point you said a question around what do we need or something, right? I think we need to really develop, I mean, not develop, but shine the light and build awareness on different forms of leadership, on steward leadership, on feminine leadership. And by that, I don't mean biological gender, I mean the feminine of, yeah, of sourceship, to really to create support networks of these, you know, non non I don't know, game A, old system type of leaders. I don't want to focus the light on any particular race or gender, because you have people of every race and of every gender that are scarily testosterone driven. Uh, but yeah, I think create awareness that this kind of leadership is needed, that it's valid, that it's important, and that it's possible. And then create the support systems around these kinds of leaders, young women, disadvantaged people, and all of this, to enable them to step into leadership and into building projects. I think, and this connected with me, and I was saying, yes, things are bubbling, but we need more better leaders.
I
Or
hear you.
different leaders, right? I think the regeneration calls for a different kind and sense of leadership. Uh, and there isn't enough awareness that you can be neurodiverse, that you can be feminine, that you can be young, that you can be not super knowledgeable in an area, and yet still you can be an amazing leader, because you communicate, because you inspire people, because you believe that it's possible and necessary, and because you know how to listen.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was also one of the things that I saw when we were and some of the conversations that we've had is if we don't embody the change that we're talking about, then we've kind of failed before we've even begun in the way that we're kind of creating these things. So like the embodiment of the theory, I think is really important. So with that, if we believe that we are seeing this kind of new energy arising and this emergence of a kind of shift, how would you describe a new paradigm?
I am not the philosopher of the movement. I'm the convener. So for me, it's all levels, right? It's holistically integrating the individual from the your base purpose and spirituality, through the team, the organization, your bioregion, your whatever, to the global. And then it actually connects in a circle for me. It's not up down, it's circular, because your deep sense of spirituality is what enables you to feel connection with the global unity. Uh, Certainly, I think we live in amazing times where we have access to every living and to many recorded and surviving wisdom traditions and philosophies. I don't think any of them by themselves is enough, because no culture or philosophy before had global scale, had microplastics and nuclear weapons, right? Global scale technologies, and the need to create a global scale culture. In actual fact, and I haven't studied it enough, I think probably the most interesting we should study more is small island scale indigenous communities, not the continental scale ones, because a lot of them wiped themselves out and they had a much bigger play field. But in the, for example, taboos, you know the word taboo clearly, right? you know that many of the taboos, like you broke the taboo, you were put to death. Many of the taboos, you fish in the wrong place out of season, goodbye. Like, no questions asked. They were very severe, but that's because they were those Stone Age or yeah, I mean, humans had still enough technology on a small island to be able to wipe out an ecosystem, right? They were capable, they knew this, right? That's why they came up with such severe prescriptions for how to be in the world. It's for the first time we have this at a global scale, and I feel I've gotten lost the plot on this question.
I was asking how you would describe the new paradigm
The
for
new
AI.
paradigm. So yeah, all levels going deep. I mean, in terms of ideology, ideas and philosophies, I think I'm really interested in the turquoise ideas from integral theory.
Hmm.
Turquoise, yellow, I think they pointed this kind of consciousness where we're able to integrate a view and see ourselves as part of a much bigger whole.
And so, what would you say you would describe the kind of core qualities then of what you've just been describing?
Empathy to not just all humans, but to everything that's alive. A deeper perspective in time, 7 generations, 1,000 years, whatever, but much more than just the next quarter, or even just your children or grandchildren, right? It's and I think also for me, and I think this is integral in all wisdom traditions, a strong sense of gratitude and appreciation of what is there, and also uh, curiosity. Curiosity is a huge must. I think a big sense of humor. I think humor is fundamental because it really points at. It's interesting. Somebody posted this like AI generated Jesus thing, something, something. It had to be done. As this image of a guy that actually looked a lot like me, but he was so serious, and I was like, I don't believe it. I'm sure Jesus was taking the piss half the day. Because you look at any of the wise, enlightened people of the modern day, they all laugh, they smile, right? It's a sign of not if you're looking serious, that means you're taking yourself and everything overly seriously. You're not connected to the ultimate, right? Yeah.
And what do you think the role then for I put this like all organizations, but I guess thinking about, you know, I guess the more broader kind of business world at the moment, and obviously that can be, DAO and NGO, non-profit, etc. But I think the kind of what is the role for business in terms of trying to empower this kind of shift?
I mean, the first the first step always is understanding the status quo is not working. Second step is openness to learning and curiosity. Okay, well, then what? And I have to try things and learn. Uh, I mean, for me, business, or if we want to call it collaboration, this we need a better umbrella term because I think you and I we kind of see it as just one big bundle, but many people do not connect with the word business and such. That's where the rubber hits the road, right? This is where we start doing stuff. And that's the part that I'm passionate about. So we need to start doing better. I think on the if we look at the two worlds, the legacy world and the new world, the new world's got to get its shit together and start accepting that no, you can't wait until there'll be a new monetary system and all of this. In order to be regenerative, you need to be successful in the existing system and in the new paradigm. You need
Yeah.
to be providing people livelihoods. You need to be enabling people to live a reasonable, middle class life. And if you aren't generating enough financial value, then to enable that for the people that are putting their time into it, then does it really make sense currently? Uh, so becoming more practical and moving away from this suffering and poverty is noble kind of mindset, which is actually highly Christian. And it's like if you look at the whole complex of misery, goodness, it's not true. It's only one paradigm of view. And I think if you want to rally against European colonialism, let's rally against this whole idea that poverty and misery is, that's what means living a good life means. Get practical, yeah, connect more, show and accept and understand that until we show how to effectively build successful businesses, organizations in the new paradigm, the mainstream world will rightfully and correctly ignore us because it's just blah blah. Which doesn't mean that we need to, create excessive venture capital, billionaire wealth for a bunch of individual people. That's clearly not the goal. But if we're not generating regular, honest livelihoods for ordinary people working in the organization, then what are we doing, right?
Mhm.
And then on the mainstream legacy side, I think it's that, right? It's creating the cracks, right? Creating cracks where the light comes in. And I think it's, yeah, accept that it will take a long time, many things will die, but just start a process of development, right? And it can be as simple. For example, again, because I come from tech, agile is in the blood. Simple things like retrospectives, create the opening where you're trying to improve yourself and opening for the employees to have an input. That's why I think things like ESGs and SDGs and blah blah blah, people complain and say they're horrible, it's greenwashing, but at least there's a conversation around it, right? And as long as it's a growth and developmental conversation, of course, whatever we do this year is shit. But if we look at it and see how it's shit, then next year we'll do a little bit better. And the year after that, a little bit better. And the year after that, a little bit better. When it comes to big companies and legacy systems, for example, I think something like Toyota is a super inspiration. It didn't suddenly go from nothing. And it's funny because we forget now, Japan is a mark of quality. In the 40s, 50s, made in Japan was like made in China now. Bottom or like made in China 20 years ago. Bottom of the ladder, cheap shit toys, da da da. But they improved, they implemented continuous improvement, 5%, 2% better, cheaper each year. And in 20, 30 years, you had Toyota, highest quality, highest thing in the world, right? So I think if you create this opening for continuous learning and improvement, that's the only thing that you can hope for with the big legacy systems, but it's also huge.
Are there any examples of organizations or businesses that you feel are good case studies or examples of the type of businesses that we want to be creating?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, there is a bunch of the standard, well-known case studies in the reinventing organization steel world, but
Mhm.
that only has the self-organization component really strong. It's not doesn't have the new finance and all of this. I think it's new times. There's definitely you can definitely find lots of case studies of organizations that are doing one part of the whole equation well. Finding an organization which is doing all of it well, I think is going to be tough.
Yeah, I think so too. So we've talked quite a bit about collaboration, but what do you think is the current blocker for people truly collaborating at the moment?
The current what? Sorry,
Blocker,
what
like what is, in my experience, I see a lot of people talking about it and not a lot of people actually doing it effectively. Uh,
mindset?
okay. And do you want to talk about
First,
that more?
first one is mindset. Just the assumptions that if I'm doing a project, I immediately think of who will my partners be, right? Not who is the team, but also who are the partners and how does it connect with the ecosystem, da da da, So I think, especially in our change maker, new world space, something that I think, I don't know, tell me if you disagree, but a lot of us experience is we'll start a project and it's really exciting, but then the resources don't come or this and that, and then it peters out and you're like, oh shit, I wasted again, weeks, months, whatever. Right? This have you seen this or have you experienced this yourself?
Yeah.
So if instead that's what I've been doing for 10 years, right? And now I'm like, just publish everything along the way. Publish the conversation, every document that you can publish along the way. And then you're generating value for yourself and for the ecosystem immediately. And it's just a shift in mindset, right?
So more openness.
Uh, Not just openness, but also understanding that communication is what it's all about. And yeah, just building this culture of defaulting and getting the communication out there always. And again, because there's so many different ways, right? You can record videos, you can write, there's some form of expression available to you which you will find enjoyable, right? So there's really no excuse. If you're building your company and you like to take pictures, do it with fucking Instagram posts, just anything, right? When you're a big company, you're like, oh, where's my audience? Which medium do I use? Whatever. But when you're a small thing, just do whatever gives you joy because that will succeed. If you force, somebody tells you should be writing blog posts and you don't write well. I had interesting conversation with Nicole Reese. She's like, yeah, I wrote 40 blog posts last year, and we're actually in the middle of a meeting. I was saying something, suggesting, and she's like, oh yeah, I was taking notes. I got the blog post half done now, and I was like, I'm lucky if I manage to get one blog post out a year. How do you do that, right? But I love conversations, so now I'm really working on getting these conversations, posting them, and all of this. So there is really no excuse. It's just figuring out how to create the habit of communicating and sharing what you're working on.
No. And in terms of your own journey, then, are there areas that you feel you would have liked to be more supported in like creating the gathering, for example?
You mean going forward or going backwards?
If you looked backwards, are there moments that you're like, fuck, it would have been really helpful if that had been there?
Well, I mean, if the playground was there 10 years ago or 15 years ago, if the playground was there, I would probably be a multi-hundred millionaire by now.
Okay. Well, that is kind of all of my questions, unless there's any kind of other comments that you'd like to add or anything we haven't covered off.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a lot of me talking. I understand it's a interview. Was there anything that you disagreed or you didn't think was as important as I made it out?
No, I don't think so. I think it's been interesting. There's a lot of obviously common themes that are coming through across the board of people that I'm kind of speaking to. I guess one of the things that I do think is interesting, like beyond when we think there's so much information out there at the moment that I do, for me, the whole point on collaboration, I think there is also a step deeper of like, yes, there's getting the information, understand what conversations are happening and where there's similarities, but it's like, how do you also make that data actually useful and how do you source it? Because there is so much stuff that we're bombarded with and that is just put out there that actually the kind of discovery element is, I think, also challenging. But that's, I guess, when we start to get into what's happening with AI and how I guess, like how that is changing the relationship of search and how that will change into more of like a discovery mode, I think starts to get quite interesting then.
Yeah, so I mean, I probably didn't talk enough about AI because I've wrapped my head well around Web3. I understand that idea space. I haven't fully wrapped my head around AI. I think opinionated AIs, what Jean-Marc talks about, we need to have our own AI, will be instrumental, right? Fundamentally, if I'm going to start writing more or whatever, I don't want ChatGPT, which is generic download of all of human ideas. I want one that's regenerative, right? That's opinionated and has, I think that will be interesting. But agents, right? This is also what we didn't talk about. So I think Web3 is neat. It will enable all of these collaboration forms, but only when we have agents which guide us and support us. For 10, 15 years, I've been dreaming of a team coach AI agent. And now finally, I hope that within the next 10 years, we're going to start getting there. This, again, I keep on coming back to the playground, which to me is many things, but this idea of why is collaboration, why do we have games which enable us to make all of these complex things? But the second we try and do anything real, start a business, etc., it's so bloody complicated, and your best resource is books and YouTube videos, right? Yeah, I think that's where the combination, also something that I didn't talk at all about, is because now I'm really thinking the awareness. The awareness is just the first step. The next step is playground. And also what I'm really interested in is the ability to copy whole businesses, projects, or events. Simple example, if we're talking about the gathering. I want to enable people around the world to organize a gathering. How do I wrap up that thing, which is a non-trivial bunch of ideas, steps, and all of this, as a package that anybody can go anywhere and execute themselves? And also in such a way that it's locally appropriate and locally connected, not a carbon copy of something. And that's where the digital organization structures, together with the AI agent guiding you through the process, will be really interesting. And then when you have these AI agents learning, right? So you have an AI agent supporting organizing a gathering, but it's a digital thing, right? It's the same AI agent supporting all of them. So it's learning from everybody and able to support best practices everywhere. Have you seen the movie Her?
Yeah.
So you remember that, sorry?
A long time ago.
Oh, it hasn't been that long. It was 10 something, but it's still the best movie I think ever made about AI, really. And there is that moment when he asks her, "How many others are you talking to?" and realizes that she's not his exclusive girlfriend. She's like 178,000, da, 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 right? Because it's an AI, it's talking to everybody. That's where things will start to really accelerate. Uh, So yeah, today more conversation than the linking it all together. But I find actually now, if I become good and intentional at sharing online, the meta AI of the humans that I'm connected to, I'm on LinkedIn, brings in people. I posted I'm available for work. Few people connected me, it brought in work. I posted we're starting this impact group. A bunch of people tagged me. So this human brain still work, the human meta brain works fairly well. And I think yes, the AI will do more, but for now, if just everybody was got much better at sharing their needs and their offers, we would already get further. Also, at the state that we are, if people aren't sharing well enough what they're doing, what their needs are, what their challenges are, what will the AI help with, right? The AI needs the input.
Yeah, nice. Well, thank you, Victor.
Thank you.
So that kind of concludes, I guess, the interview section. I'll keep you posted. I think I'm having a lot of conversations over the course of this month, and then we'll be putting some stuff together. So I can let you know kind of how this is evolving.
Yeah, beautiful. How can I support what you're doing?
I think you are already just by being interviewed. I'm sure as kind of this kind of evolves and then pulling together kind of the thinking insights, probably moments of wanting to pass some stuff through people and just see if it kind of resonates or there's bits missed. And then equally when it comes to sharing, I mean, this is as much about just bringing together different viewpoints for people to as we both know there's a lot of exploration in this space and people trying to figure out how to do it, so if this can help contribute to bringing together some of the thinking and provocation about as we're looking at the creation process, like some of the considerations that we should be making, then job done.
Great.
um so yeah, so I think it'll just be about kind of where else can I kind of seed it out to later down the line.
Yeah. Always happy to spread, multiply. Yeah. If you have, I guess you probably have a lot of people you're talking to, but if you want others, you tell me what kind of people you're looking for, then uh, I'll keep it in mind.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, some any of recommendations when I'm gonna go through and have another think about where some of the areas that are missing. I mean, if there's anyone immediately that comes to mind, you're like, yeah, this is really important. I mean, one thing I'm also really conscious of is like so far, obviously, I'm going through my networks of what's like the kind of more corporate, my innovation corporate background. And there are obviously the more kind of grassroots Portugal, but you're speaking within a bubble. So wanting to pierce that and think about how can we bring in other perspectives and also stepping outside of just like a Western viewpoint as well. So looking at like what does this look like where, a lot of the time we're talking about regeneration as if it's this new movement. But a lot of the theories and stuff that's been happening has been going on forever in a lot of other countries as second nature. So it's like how can we actually learn and adapt from that as well and not just see it as this hipster thing that's happened in the last 20
I
years.
mean, that's why it's a synthesis of many things, and yet, and we need to learn how to express this at a better level. All of those cultures that were great at doing this regionally never had to steward microplastics and nuclear weapons, global scale impact, or oil, or capitalism, or these are the things we're trying to steward at a global scale. So yes, it's ancient. At the same time, it's new in the sense of we're trying to figure out how to apply this ancient way of relating to reality to a global scale.
Yeah. I mean, I would argue that there's some, like, when you look at India, for example, there's also a lot of organizations that are embodying a lot of this the more kind of systemic way of evolving. And then, not necessarily classed or talking about it as generation, but actively that is what is happening. And it is
Yet,
different, perhaps.
for me, there is a million and one other things which don't call themselves regeneration that are definitely.
And as we said, the word is potentially not dangerous, but we don't want to fall into the same trap of like the sustainability bubble of we'll just slap it over everything and there you go. So,
Yeah, that's why, I mean, it was suggested to me last year. I like this idea of systems change.
mhm.
I wonder if that's more open. All right.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because it looks at like multiple different lenses, for sure. Um, I'm conscious the hour is up. I don't know if you've got another call now, or if you want to spend another 10 minutes just chatting about um the kind of broader conversations.
I can spend 5 minutes.
Yeah, nice. Oh, alternatively, we can put another chat in. I know, as I said, like Mark Luca was looking. So pause this for now. Does it? Oh, you're recording it. Yeah. So I know Jean-Marc was obviously having a think about, yeah, the kind of broader meetup. So I think it would be great